sound you used to hear in this community from this church. We had a bell, and we're going to put a bell back out there to celebrate some of our history. You're sitting on the grounds of where in late 1860s during the Civil War, the 5,000 troops from the South worshiped on these grounds. About 2 weeks later, they moved to flank East Point, and then came the Northern Army, 5,000 troops within a 2 to 3 week period, worshiped on these grounds. The country was divided, but God had a purpose for this place, and this place has survived all these years. It's a little small congregation, but it's a loving congregation that was happy to open the doors for this. And I want to encourage you, and I'm going to open up with prayer. My wife says, be about 2 to 3 minutes. You don't get to preach in front of a crowd like this and tell them to shut up. That's why I sit up here and she sits down there. If I sit down there, she elbows me. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we're just amazed at what you're doing. Father, we know that this is a divided issue that's divided not just in this county, but it's around the United States, also around the world. But Father, you've already known all this. Your scriptures have taught us from cover to cover what's coming in the future. But in the meantime, Father, we can do certain things that you've asked us to do, to get out and know and learn things so that we can educate other folks. Now, Lord, I pray for the people who are going to speak. I'm going to pray for the information that's going to be given. I ask that you open the ears so that we receive it and that we can move forward in what you're calling us to do in Paulding County. Now, Lord, just bless these speakers and let your spirit be felt in this place. We ask this in Jesus' name. And all who love him say, Amen. And there's room up here if anybody wants to sit up here. You don't have to preach.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Isn't it a great day to be alive? Amen. And I want to tell you, I appreciate everybody coming out. We've got a little program I'm going to open up. Then we'll have Shannon do a slide presentation. We'll have you have some cards, or you should have some cards if you bring it up forward. But I want to say that thank you for being here, because to me this says that you care about your community and you care about what's going on. But before we talk about data centers, I want to say something that I believe is important to really understand. See, today isn't about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's not about liberals or conservatives. It's about we the people. We are the government, contrary to what a lot of people think or believe. We are the voice. We elect representatives, but they should be listening to their constituents. When a proposal has people from every political background coming together, and you're all sitting in the same room, you're not all the same political persuasion. So that tells you this is a partisan issue, not a bipartisan issue. It's a community issue. It's not about politics, it's about preserving our community and our county. We may vote differently, we may disagree on a dozen of other issues, but today we're united by one common goal, and that's to make sure that the future of Paulding County is decided openly, honestly, and with the voices of the people who live here. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is turning this into a political rally. It's not. But we all have one thing in common. We care about Paulding County. We care about our homes. We care about our properties and their values. We care about our children and our grandchildren's health. And that's what brings us together here today. I'm not anti-data center, but I surely am about location, location, location. That is the problem. I wasn't looking for this to be an issue when I had ran a campaign for county commissioner. Someone contacted me and asked if I knew what was happening with the technology overlay districts. And like most people, I never heard the term used before, so I started researching. I read agendas, I read the UDO, I talked with residents that it affected the most, especially in my post. And I discovered there was more questions than answers being raised. That's why we're here today, not to spread rumors, to create fear, as some may say, but to share the facts we know, explain what we don't know, and talk about what the citizens can be doing moving forward. Today is about facts and not rumors. We don't have all the answers because many questions still haven't been answered publicly. We will be honest about what we do know, honest about what we don't know, and we will point you to the documents whenever possible when Shannon gives their PowerPoint presentation. There's a lot of discussion and a lot of speculation and a lot of frustration. I know, we all have it. If something is said by myself or Shannon or the panel, it's because it's documented, it's publicly available, or it's generally already established, not because someone heard it from somebody else, or because of a Facebook post. I want to also say, we're talking about our Board of Commissioners and an issue as a whole. We're not pointing out individuals. We're not bringing up individuals' names. We're talking about our county seat that votes collectively as a whole. But here are some facts. Data centers are being built across the country because of the demand of cloud computing, artificial intelligence, streaming, digital service continue to grow. Data centers require a significant infrastructure, unlike other commercial developments. This is industrial development. They require large amounts of electrical power, high-speed fiber connectivity, and depending on the design, and we don't even know what's being proposed here in Paulding County as far as design, may require excessive amount of water for cooling. Not every data center is the same or requires different things, substantial infrastructure to operate. Because of those infrastructure needs about where they are located can have long-term implications, those decisions deserve careful planning and thoughtful public discussion. I don't think we've had careful planning and thoughtful public discussion. Construction can involve hundreds of workers for a period of time, but you know what? They usually come from out of state. Once a center is up and running, it employs a much smaller workforce to keep it operational. Some communities have adopted stricter zoning rules or location requirements because of the concern about the compatibility near neighborhoods. Paulding County has not. So location matters. Even when people support data centers, they often agree that location matters. The question isn't always whether a county should have a data center, but where they belong and what protections are in place to be provided to the surrounding property owners. There's a Gallup poll that 71% of the citizens do not want to live next door to a data center. That makes it a partisan issue. These are long-term decisions that our Board of Commissioners are making that deserve careful public discussion. We don't know the ultimate type of design of data centers looking into Paulding County. We don't know the environmental impact since no studies have been presented by the county that I'm aware of. We do not know the buffer proposal of 150 to 200 feet is adequate for homeowners. Other community and health officials recommend a minimum of a half-a-mile distance between the data center and residential communities. A half a mile. I went down the other day and everybody talks about there's not no noise, and I posted it on Facebook. I went down to Lithia Springs, Douglasville, and I reported the noise coming. Let me tell you, I'm a disabled vet because of hearing loss. I flew medical evac in the Air Force, I can't hear worth of garbage. I can hear it very well.
Wow.
And I encourage you, you can go on the website, nodatacenter.com. You can go to look for Scott Richards and you can look at the video. You determine for yourself. I'm not asking, like a lot of people, is just believe it because I said it. Go find out for yourself the noise that emits from the data centers. They do not need to be next to residential communities. We do not need to take a dartboard and throw darts up against a landmass and say, here's where we want to put some data centers because we were asked to go pick out some spots. There needs to be careful consideration. There needs to be input from the community. So this brings us to Paulding County. What concerns many residents isn't simply that data centers exist, it's where they're located, how decisions are made by the Board of Commissioners, whether residents receive timely information, and whether the community has meaningful opportunities to participate before major land use decisions are finalized. Not part of an overall comprehensive plan, it's not part of the comprehensive plan. I'm not saying that the Board of Commissioners didn't check the box and put an ad in the local paper as required, but most residents don't even receive the legal organ of the county. And it takes a magnifying glass to read through it sometimes. Is simply meeting the legal minimum the same as meaningfully informing the citizens and the public of what's about to be proposed? If a proposal has the potential to change the future of a community, why not go beyond the legal minimum? Why not post clear explanations on your county website? Why not use social media pages? Why not send email notifications to residents who might can sign up to get emails? Why not hold community town halls before decisions are made? We need to make it easy for citizens to understand what is being proposed. When people feel they're learning about significant planning decisions only after key steps have already taken place, trust begins to erode. Whether you support data centers or oppose them, transparency is essential to good governance. Transparency isn't about guaranteeing everyone gets the outcome they want. It's about making sure everyone has the opportunity to know what's being proposed, understand it, ask questions, and have their voices heard before important decisions are made. So that's why we're here today. Important decisions have been made without the transparency that we needed. This meeting isn't about spreading fear. It's about sharing the information we have, acknowledging what we still don't know, helping citizens understand how local government works so they can participate in the decisions that shape our county. So to me, this is bigger than data centers. Whatever your opinion is on this issue, every citizen deserves a government that doesn't just comply with the law, it actively works to keep its citizens informed. Transparency shouldn't be about checking a box, it should be about building trust. Thank you.
All right, so for those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Shannon. I am not anti-data center, but I am against industrial development ending up several hundred feet from my house. Like, that just seems wrong. I actually moved to Georgia to...
Lift your microphone.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Gosh, I'm loud enough. You think I don't need the microphone. But I moved to Georgia to be able to go to a grocery store in my pajamas and not be recognized. I came from one of the reddest counties in Maryland. I've always ignored my government and trusted what they did, and planning was always great, never had any issues. So I definitely did not plan to be here in front of you guys today like this. This journey was not something I wanted to sign up for. My man and I argue about two things. I said this in my first speech to the DOC: my driving and my lack of interest in world politics. He comes home, he complains about Trump, or he complains about this and that, and I'm like, I don't care. And he's like, why don't you care? And I'm like, because I can't change anything. I can't change what's happening in Israel. I can't change what's happening in Iran. And I've always said to him, but if a data center came to my backyard, I'd go protest that. And it's amazing how God works. So when God did this, I figured, okay, he's telling me I gotta get off my butt and I gotta stop being comfy. And I gotta stop going to the grocery store in my pajamas with no makeup on, and I gotta do something. So here we are. So first I wanna just touch on some facts and fiction. So taxes, the truth on taxes. We hear people say data centers are gonna eliminate residential taxes. But that's not necessarily the truth. The true statement is data centers will increase county revenue. That is a true statement. Okay, this would allow the county to improve infrastructure and do good things. I keep hearing people apparently keep asking for a swimming pool. A data center could eventually lead to that improvement. But you know what else? So no county in the U.S. has eliminated property taxes because of data centers. But you know what has eliminated residential property taxes? Casinos, gambling, oil, gas, mining, tourism, all the things that a community typically doesn't want in their backyard. So if we're relying on data centers to eliminate residential property taxes, we have to consider them part of this list. We have to look at them with, if they are so great, what is the cost of that greatness? So data centers typically don't trickle down any relief for residents for at least 8 years post groundbreaking. And then it's typically in the form of increased homestead credits. Later, I will let you guys scan something that's going to open a Dropbox file that has a bunch of open record stuff, plus also some data. And one of those is the Coweta, sorry, I can't pronunciate things down here, from Project Sale. They actually did a financial review of what it'll look like for that county if everything goes as planned. And you'll see, the net benefits of the data center, year 0 is less than $1 million. The next year is 1.5, the next year is 2.5, the next year is 3. We don't get into the double digits until year 6. We don't get over $20 million until year 10. It takes time for any kind of expected return to happen with the data centers. It's not immediate, and I know there's people, how many people think you'll be in your home in 10, 20 years? How will you live long enough to see it actually affect your residential taxes? So that's just like fact, fiction things to think about. Not all data centers are evil, okay? And this is an important thing, and this is something I keep pushing the county to make change and reform to the UDO. Data centers, they are essential infrastructure. We do need them. If you don't think you need them, then I encourage you to go find a plot of land that's completely off the grid. You'll never be able to use medical resources again because everything now is electronic. We have gotten ourselves in a world where we are dependent on them. But, you have to plan them responsibly, right? You can't just throw them next to residences. Facilities, they are improving, they're modernizing, but there's still a lot of downsides to them. The issue really is not whether data centers should exist. The real question is, where should they exist? The chairman has said publicly that when he was asked how many data centers do you want, like when they were talking about the overlay, he said, 4, let's put one in each post. Well, it's funny how he says that because post 1 has 0 partials in the TPOD. Post 3 has 2 large areas, equating to, I think, 10 total partials. So it's funny how we didn't actually end up with an overlay that incorporated what his plan was. But the funny thing here is we already allowed data centers in this county according to our I-1, our AML, and our ECBP zones. Anybody could come in and rezone a partial into one of these and build a data center anywhere in the county. That is fact. We did not need the overlay to allow data centers. So the real question is, why did they want to do the overlay? And I'll tell you guys later. So can you spot the difference between rezoning and an overlay that adds industrial uses? So normally if somebody wants to change a residential property to industrial use, they have to go through rezoning. If you look at our Unified Development Ordinance, it's like 3 pages of things that somebody has to do in order to even present a rezoning to the Planning Commission. An overlay required none of that. An overlay required 1 text amendment to be voted on Planning Commission and then by the board. And the only public notice we got was in the Dallas New Era that said, public hearing, zoning text amendments, chapter 220, overlay. That's it. That's it. It didn't reference technology park overlay. It didn't reference data centers. It kept it very short, clean, minimum required by the state for a public notice. Oh, and if we go back, we do have other overlays. So the corridor overlay follows major highways, roadways in Paulding County. The airport corridor is around the airport. Sweetwater follows a Sweetwater watershed. Silver Comet follows Silver Comet. And then we have the Technology Park Overlay District, where they handpicked, partials all around the county. Why? Why did they pick them? Well, you'll find that out too. So here is just an example of the ones off of SR 92. And I didn't zoom out too much. I zoomed in so you can see how many residential tax parcels. All of that little yellow, orangey color are R2s. That's all residential. Look at how many parcels are surrounding that. In a typical rezoning process, the landowner would have to send certified letters to every partial touching their parcels. There would have to be notice. Guess what? Nobody got.
Notice.
So, quick timeline of events. Paulding County adopted our current Unified Development Ordinance back in 2022. This is where we allowed data centers. I think it's data processing, hosting, and related services in the ECDP, AML, and the I-1 zones. This was a huge overhaul. Apparently before this, we had a lot of different books going over a lot of different things. So this took all the books and put it into one big book. Ordinance 2025-06 introduces a technology overlay. I do list when it has public hearing notices in the Dallas New Era. It went in front of the Planning Commission August 26, 2025. The only person who got up to spoke was in favor of it, and that was Brandon Bowen, who was an attorney for Bartow County. Nobody got up to oppose it, probably because nobody realized what was happening. September 9th is when the Board of Commissioners voted to approve it. This original ordinance brought in the SR 92 partials, which is the Bethel and the Tidwell and the electric dam. So ordinance 2025-07 added the Coal Lake partials. Public notice hearing, November 18th. The Planning Commission actually voted to deny it, but they said the board approved it. They, had a stipulation they would like to be included of 200 feet undisturbed, and that was per Todd Honnell's request. On December 9th, the Board of Commissioners voted to approve it and included that 200-foot undisturbed buffer. 2026-02, this was a big overhaul to the UDO. They changed a lot of language and definitions. Of course, we have the public hearing notices, and then March 24th, it went in front of the Planning Commission, and they voted to approve. The Planning Commission voted to approve it with the 200-foot undisturbed buffer against all of the TPOD partials. When it went in front of the board on April 14th, Ann Littman presented an alternate amendment that was 100-foot undisturbed plus 50 feet that could be disturbed, but if vegetated, or if heavily vegetated, it would have to be replanted. One of the commissioners, Post 3 commissioner, does reference how they had a conversation of why they can't move forward with 200 undisturbed buffers, and how she really wanted to give that to her people, but she understood that we can't. She also references that there is a 26-foot fire lane that has to be included between the property line and the building, so we can get fire trucks in there to support the 75-foot building. So the board approved the 100-foot buffers undisturbed plus the 50 disturbed that has to be replanted and vegetated. They moved forward with that for all partials, including Coal Lake. That was originally 200 foot undisturbed. May 5th, Post-War Commissioner requested that Ann Littman create a text amendment to remove 2 tax parcels. Both of those are located at the end of Electric Dam Road. This was supposed to be presented at the June 23rd, 2026 Planning Commission, but it was pulled. When I emailed Ann, she said, we have made the decision to remove the text amendment to the Technology Park overlay from the June 23rd Planning Commission agenda. The purpose of the text amendment was to remove 2 partials. However, based on the feedback from citizens, we thought some other changes might be warranted, and we would like more time to research the other jurisdiction ordinances before we make any changes. In the past couple weeks, I have met with Tim Estes, and I've met with Dean and Chris in our planning department, and there is no current changes being drafted. Just an FYI. So open records request, tons of things. Tim has said, the chairman has said that, people have been knocking to get in our county data centers since he came in office, which was January 25. We did find an email from Luke from Evergreen Development. He's inquiring about data center zoning, so that's factual. Before that email, we're pretty much just seeing data center emails based on trainings. The state of Georgia has put out a lot of stuff on data centers, so there's been a lot of trainings, a lot of information, but this was the first time that you see somebody inquiring about bringing something to Paulding. May 22nd of 2025, Brandon Bowen meets with Ann and Chris in the planning department. They follow up with an email with examples of other overlays that he's helped draft. 7/10, Brandon emails Ann. I have heard back on the overlay language. There are 3 minor changes we would like to discuss. Who's we? July 24th, Tim and Ann emails. Ann speaks to drafting the overlay district and advertising it to be heard at the August 26th Planning Commission. Quotes, there's some quotes in there, like she shared it with Brandon Bowen, who had his client review them and had 3 concerns. So we know the 3 concerns that the whole thing was drafted for our client. They asked the height to be raised to 75 feet versus the original 65 feet that we drafted it for. She does mention that the DCA ruled that data centers will not have to go through DRI in that email. However, there was more stuff later on that year, so they do have to go through DRI if they are 500,000 square feet or 200 acres. Tim asked about expediting the process because he has another project he wants to work with Jeff on. So it seems like Jeff was, the Tidwell partials were the first ones to be of interest. Ann reminds him of the legalities of zoning changes and that we can adjust the timeline. On July 30th, Tabitha Pollard, who's our county manager, emails Ann, was Atlas the data center working with Jeff Matthews? So this is where it starts. And I have been told that we're not going to find anything if we go back before May 1st of 2025. So that's kind of where the timeline goes. So we start May 22nd, meeting with an attorney, and August 26th, in front, that new ordinance is in front of Planning Commission. How much research can you do in 3 months? I have spent the last 3 months, this has become a new full-time job for me. It's been exhausting, okay? And I don't know how much research they did, but obviously, I don't feel like it's enough. So there are a bunch of more emails that confirm that Bowen represents Atlas. Ann emails Brandon about 2 more edits they made to the TPOD. They confirmed that the fire chief is okay with 75-foot buildings. So I know people, I've heard commissioners say, well, they're not going to build 75-foot buildings. Why would they want 75 foot in our overlay, in the wording, if they weren't going to build 75? So, but anyway, what I found cute was Tabitha, our county manager, emails Ann on August 14th, something from the Urban Land Institute. It is local guidelines for data center development. And on page 21, and it's very pro data center. It's very hey, this is what you do, this is how you should do it. We get to page 21, and it says pretty much that, we don't recommend putting data centers near residential due to their industrial nature. So it's kind of cute, right? Like, you know. And by the way, if you scan that QR code, and Dorita, if you want to put those QR codes, you can scan these QR codes. This will take you to a Dropbox folder that has all of the emails that I'm referencing in it. It also has maps with the buffers. It has DRI recordings from Project Sail and another Atlas project that they're working on. It has a bunch of stuff you guys can reference. You don't have to dig into it now. You can go in, save it, look at it later.
Just hold it.
Yes.
The QR needs to be moved a little to the left.
All right, there, we do have some things there. You can scan it right there.
Thank you.
August 22nd, Ann emails out the new UDO ordinances. There was a fall mobile classroom. Several commissioners and Ann went to visit Meta during that process. This is the time where everybody in that city did sign an NDA to visit Meta. You know, some of them have joked with me that they don't actually know what the NDA was for. They don't know what they're allowed to talk about and not allowed to talk about. You know, or like was a data center. They don't know what was privileged and what wasn't. But still, so there were several people. I definitely know Virginia, Dean, and Tim and Ann all went. There might be others. There's been a lot of emails and things, and you know, hard to confirm 100%. So then we have somebody emailing Chris Robinson of Planning about the Full Lake partial, and emails to advertise an amendment that adds Full Lake to the TPOD. Tim, Ann, and Chris meet with Barrett Howe on Pine Hill Investments because he wanted to add his partials to the TPOD. October 21st of 25, Ann actually confirms that those partials will be added to the TPOD too. It references T5 as a company for data centers that he's working with. Unsure why it never got added. I'll speculate the reason why. But because it can still be rezoned into I1, AML, and ECDP, if T5 really is interested in those partials, it doesn't have to be included in the overlay. Just please note that. No one is safe right now. January 23rd, Jason Enabatarte emails Tabitha Pollard around data centers. Some of the questions are, what active projects are currently going or now and where are they located? Tabitha emails, we have a project that might be defined as active on Highway 92, but nothing has been requested of the county. I believe the Coal Lake property is being marketed. And in the open records, you'll actually see a plan that David Pearson has put together to market his property to data centers. It's kind of cute. It brings a fire station and a youth center. It's really adorable. It's being marketed. I'm not aware of status. However, neither of them have requested a land disturbance permit at this time. For the record, I see no applications. I see nothing past zoning certificates at this point with all of the research. So no active applications that we know of. So this email is in there too, so you can definitely read the rest of those. I don't want to keep you guys in this hot room for too much longer, you know. Virginia and Ann email about data center questions for her post 3 town hall. They have a meeting with the electric dam property owners. There's a Project Sweetwater meeting. That's what they're calling the SR92 project. Tabitha sends Ann 15 best practices. I love this. This was a one-pager, a white page written by the Loudoun County people. Number 2 on this list is never, it's bold, it's capital letters, right? Never allow data centers to be built by right without governing body specific approval. Guess what our TPOD does, guys? It allows a data center to be built by right. If there is any question on that, the zoning certificates in that Dropbox folder will show you that yes, they confirm, the Planning Commission confirms, they are allowing data centers by right. So anyway, back on, there was a pre-meeting for the barbecue. The Butlers had hosted a lovely barbecue where a bunch of people came, Virginia, Ann, a Greystone representative, Ray Wooten from the Water and Sewage, like a bunch of people came to that. It was local for like the Turnberry residents, the people west of the Bethel Church property. So they had a pre-meeting to get everybody on the same page. It also included Joe Rich of Atlas Development and Brian Dill. It included the developers in that pre-meeting. The May 16th, there was the barbecue at the Butlers. June 1st, there was a meeting with Prologis. If you're not familiar with Prologis is who acquired Project Sale, okay, Coweta. So it started off Atlas Development, Prologis came on, so it'll look like Prologis will be the ones going forward with that project. Zoning certificates were issued June 11th, and then I'm just gonna, all right, so I already said I had some private meetings with Tim. It was Tim, Tabitha, Dawn, and then I had a meeting with Ann and Chris. I've also spent time at Virginia's house picking raspberries and speaking with her. That was early on in this process. So like I've tried to do my due diligence. I've tried to go to the sources. I've tried to get the information. I've tried. But I will warn you guys. So right now we know there's no change in the TPOD right now. There's no change coming up for the UDO. Ann has said they're going to try to go to a once-a-year amendment. So that way we don't have all these small little ones in the middle. I just caution you all, if you see something pop up before the election, please don't bet your money that it's going to go through if the final vote is after the election. That's just a cautionary tale I have for you guys. So, why did they want the overlay? Well, they wanted the overlay because they wanted to secure by right the ability to build a data center on those lands. And we're talking primarily Tidwell and then the Bethel Church property. This removes the uncertainty and the lengthy rezoning process. It removes community input and opposition. So this is the important thing. This is the problem. This is where I have a problem with all of this. It's not even about a data center for me at this point. It's the way they did it. Okay, and that is concerning to me. What else do they do? Like we've had commissioners run on the lack of transparency of previous commissions. We've had them run being like, no, we want transparency. This is not transparency at all. I definitely want to touch on who Atlas is because I think this is a really important piece. I heard that at the last GOP meeting, somebody was like, Jonathan Ward is a patriot, you know, you should trust him. Well, there is a Jonathan, hold on, there is a Jonathan D.T. Ward who is a patriot. He owns Atlas Organization, okay? I will tell you that when you go to search Atlas Development LLC here in Georgia, it's very hard to find anything. Very, very difficult. We might have even tried to run a credit report on them. They don't exist. It is basically just like an LLC, a couple guys. So it is, and I'm a research nerd, if you guys can't tell by now. I know Atlas Development LLC's LinkedIn page was created in 22. Their website didn't start until 2024. If you guys didn't know, there's a Wayback Machine where you can go in and see old websites. His wife owns a juice bar in Carrollton. There are a ton of Atlas companies and organizations. Like I mentioned, the Jonathan D.T. Ward of Atlas Organization, you know, that's one of the things. There are several Atlas development groups here in Georgia. There is another one that actually works on data centers. So you really have to be careful when you go to research these guys. They are site assemblers and entitlement developers. They are not data center builders. So here's a list of projects. I think there is a total of 8 actually, but here's a list of projects that they are involved with publicly, not to mention what's happening here in Paulding. They have not successfully built a data center anywhere. Their website says other things, but there's nothing. I think I put it in the open records folder that there is actually a couple news articles. One is when Project Sale first came out, the newspaper tried to find information on them and couldn't. There's another one where there was like some kind of town hall thing where, you know, they had different stations set up and people could go around and speak, and somebody went up to Klein Petty. He used to work for Georgia Power. He now works for Atlas. And they were asking about the Texas facilities that they have, supposedly. And he walked away, made a phone call, and came back and said, no, we're only here to talk about the ordinance in question. So there's a lot of lack of transparency with Atlas, so it's no surprise that they are promoting a lack of transparency in the community. Their business address is an empty rental. There's not actually anything there. His home is owned by an LLC. It's not registered in Georgia. No idea where it's registered to. Less than 10 employees that I can confirm via LinkedIn and the emails through the county. They used to have an Avia Development Group LLC. That was listed under construction per the Georgia Business Search. They also had an Atlas Sailor Holdings, which was some kind of property rental thing that they tried to do, but it didn't even last a year. I don't even know if I should be worried about Atlas because they don't really have a great track record. But I still am concerned because this is who our county decided to get in bed with. So, important takeaways. This overlay sets a very dangerous precedent. It was created per developer's request and amended to their needs and wants. Multiple landowners are trying to get added to the TPOD. Multiple. Like, there's all kinds of emails and texts. Like, people want in this thing so bad because it raises the value of their land. And guess what happens when you raise the value of land? Your taxes go up, right? Yeah. So I think the backstory, and this could be a little bit wrong. I believe, like, for the KRR Sweetwater properties, he paid $6 million. The county actually offered him 12 to buy it years ago. But he knew he could get 27 if he developed it into houses, and the rumor is right now he could get 75 if he sells to the data center. That's inflation on property values. You know, it's only going to make it harder for everybody. So since they didn't set up the rules, and when I say they, the county didn't set up rules to get into the TPOD, because remember the other overlays are an area. You know, they encompass a space. Here, they got definitions and, you know, boundaries. Here, they literally hand-picked these. At least the first one was because somebody wanted to sell to a data center. Hey, create the overlay for me. And then, hey, let's bring in another person. Hey, let's add more partials so it doesn't look like we're special, like doing this just for this guy over here. Now, whether that was their intentions or not, you know, obviously that's conjecture, but it definitely looks like what happened. But since they did not set up rules to get into the TPOD, it opens the county up for litigation. You know, any developer, if they get taken out of the TPOD, could sue because now you just took away their by right to build a data center, making their property less valuable. But then the guy next door who wants to add his partials in, if you don't let him in, then he can sue because, you know, of discrimination. Like, it just opens up a big old messy can of worms. So with the addition of Coal Lake partial, not only are PRDs at risk, and this is really important. I've heard a lot of people say, well, none of these are going in my backyard, I don't care. They're not happening in my part of the county. There are no rules here. These can go anywhere. At any moment, the TPOD could be amended. At any moment, somebody could go for rezoning into I-1, AML, or ECDP. We have so many opportunities to improve our code. These partials are sitting ducks. Data center developers are circling like vultures. In the emails, you will see several different companies reaching out about, like, especially real estate agents. What's your laws? Like, what is your code? Where do you support data centers? What does it look like? The UDO needs amended to remove data centers from I-1, AML, and ECDP. If we want data centers, we need to build a specific code for them and make them apply for a special use permit. Like, we need to do that for it. Birmingham, I actually sent this to Anne, I think back in June or July. Birmingham defines micro, medium, and hyperscale data centers. It's beautiful. Like, they're building one right now in Birmingham. It's like 75 acres. It's only going to use 4 generators. I wouldn't be opposed to something like that small, one like next to my house. I really wouldn't. I would not be as scared. But the uncertainty here, you know, Project Sail in Coweta is 9 buildings, just under 1 gigawatt of electricity going through it. It'll be using up to 1 million or a little over 1 million gallons of water a day per building. You know, now, what I will say when it comes to water, a lot of industry is high water usage. There was apparently a Chinese solar cell manufacturer who tried to come in to the southeast part of the county, hopefully that's not still in the works or anything. That was from like, I think 24 from the open records, and they projected to use 1.3. So industry can and does use a lot of water. So we have to be careful when we're fighting that. I have heard that because we have slowed down residential builds here in Paulding, and we built that reservoir, that the reservoir is going to have water to support industry. I've heard that. Haven't done the deep dive rabbit hole, but it looks like we would probably have water. But we need to do something better, and we need to really encourage, our commission to really go in and change that UDO to support data centers. Even if we don't want them, we can't be unrealistic, because if they're going to come, they're going to find a way. So let's put as many stipulations and blocks on them as possible to make them good partners. None of this 150-foot buffer against residential. So in closing, for me, this isn't about being for or against data centers. This is about industrial scale developments. If it should be allowed next to homes, next to schools, next to churches. This is Bethel Church. This is right up against where a data center could potentially go. Again, there's no applications to date that I'm aware of. We will continue to do open records requests until we see something or we don't. That's something that, I think the community as a whole, everybody who's involved in here will continue doing that, because we don't want this to come in. We don't want to be blind. I encourage you all to get a Dallas New Era subscription. I recommend the digital version because you can open it up in Adobe and you can search, public hearing. You can search, overlay, you can search keywords. It's a whole lot easier than trying to read that very unorganized old newspaper. But I just encourage you guys, stay aware, stay open. Like I said, even if you want a data center, there's real issues with what the county's doing in regards to placements, how they're doing it by taking away the rezoning. They're taking it away from us, and that's not fair. So anyway. All right, I think now we're going to do a Q&A. All questions have to be written down. I think there's a box out in the vestibule. If somebody can bring that in, and then if we can get some people to help. All right. What are the points of access to county commissioners besides the meetings during? What are the points of access to county commissioners besides the meetings during weekdays, emails, phones, in person? Are you assuming that means people like the developers and stuff?
No.
Oh, how are you going to access your commissioners? Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. They are available via email and phone calls. If you come out to any of the Board of Commissioners meetings, they're usually there to speak with people. After the meetings, they usually come in. I would say the evening meeting, they're probably a little bit more accessible, just because sometimes they go into executive session after the 10 a.m. ones. The next one, if we donate money for litigation and not enough is raised, do we get our money back? I will let the PCCA will be getting up to speak after the question segment, so they'll be happy to answer any questions in regards to money and all that. Are there fundraisers, bingo plan to help raise funds for litigation? I'm unaware. Again, we'll say that. We'll put that here for the PCCA. Next question. How does this affect my property value? What is the health concern? Want me to take this?
Well, there have been studies that property values that are next to data centers drop between 6.8 to 7%. So that was in one state.
But I've also done research and shown just the opposite, where property values go up. Now that doesn't mean it makes it easier to sell your home, but it does mean that you'll pay more property taxes because the values of all the homes in the area go up. You're not taxed on what just happens on your street. You're taxed on your community's values. So improved infrastructure, better access to sewer, water, broadband, all that improves your home value. Data centers bring all of that to the community. The problem is if you're sitting right on next to that property line, it might be harder for you to sell your home. Yeah, you might get more, because this is the thing too. There are people who aren't afraid to live next to data centers, okay? Like, I wouldn't live in the city of Atlanta. Okay, I love going to the West End. I love going down there, having some beers, and, you know, like having a good time on the Beltline. I personally would never want to live there. I like hearing the crickets. I like seeing what little stars we do have in Paulding County. You know, so I wouldn't move there. But people in the city will still think that Paulding is rural and come out here and live near that. So it's not like there's not going to be a market for homes. There will always be somebody who will buy your house. It just depends on how long, how much. Those are the questions. And you don't really know until you hear how loud a data center is, or you see how invasive it is. So it's a lot of markets, though, like you look at Loudoun County, you know, the prices go up. They go up a lot because urban sprawl naturally happens, you know, and people are going to go where the infrastructure is good. So it is a mixed bag.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the proposals of what's going on in the community. Like I said, property values have dropped. If property values are going up, I would like to do a little bit more research, and if they're thinking, oh, we can get 600 for our house instead of 300 because it's probably going to be a data center. One thing Shannon had mentioned about the parcels and stuff, and talking about it, even as an open book, there was one email that I received that it was already inquiring in post 3 next to the overlay an additional 87 acres that's not in the overlay district, but the individual inquiring about it is involved in data centers. So what do you do? And you've already had Century said they weren't building houses up near North Paulding and sold it to Switch because they could never sell it. So I have a little different viewpoint on it. I've been in construction, I've been in real estate, I've been in development before. It'll have an impact on your resident. I promise you.
Yeah, several people on my street have already been offered above property value for our homes. Not because of the data center, you know, wants to build there, but because somebody wants to rent them out to the construction crews that are coming. So just like, I got offered $75,000 more than I paid, which I think is about $130,000 more than my current county assessment. So I'm not selling, I'm staying and fighting. Can the presentation be posted on our Facebook page or other? Yes, I will make sure this PowerPoint gets posted. I know that we're working on video, not sure where it is, but I'm sure whenever it gets posted someplace, you guys will know about it.
It says 2, but was the TPOD
After the consent.
Yeah, I mean, you showed that there was.
Yeah, so Jeff Matthews was working with Atlas, and they brought in Bowen to help draft the overlay. But again, no applications have actually been submitted. Atlas just tries to secure the rights and then sell it off to the developer. At least that's their current MO with the other properties that they handle.
I'm gonna make a comment too. In the UDO, the overlay district is almost cookie cutter to Bartow County. So that opens a red flag to me that really the research in the safeguards that Shannon talked about were implemented. And it was given to by the attorney that worked with Bartow.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Yeah, who admitted that he didn't know anything about data centers when Switch first approached him to help with the zoning up there.
Right. So again, there just hasn't been, like Shannon said, these overlays right now are sitting ducks. Unless we can get the Board of Commissioners, and I hope they're listening, they need to do a moratorium as fast as they can. I don't know how far 92 is going, but they have already submitted certified letters from the county to the owners verifying and certifying that they were in a part of an overlay district for the data centers. They're doing their due diligence. Now, whether there's a transaction transpired, I don't know. But those overlays, what's remaining, if that is already too late, should be immediately put a moratorium down. And I would ask y'all to encourage the county commissioners to do it until we can get adequate and exact ordinances that protect the county and the people.
All right. Noise, wildlife, radiation, health issues. A lot of this is still unproven, you know, unfortunately. Like, there's not a lot of data. Like, there is, but there isn't. Like, there's people that report a bunch of things, but it goes back to not all data centers are created equal. You know, there's data centers that run 100% on diesel-fired generators. There's data centers who run 100% on gas-powered turbines. No data center, they're not all cookie cutter, they're not all the same. So, you know, there's the old school models, there's, you know, the newer ones that are becoming more efficient, there's closed loop, there's open loop. There's just no way to say that, yes, all data centers do this. You really have to look at the technology of each. You have to look at the distance from neighboring residents. You have to look at how are they disposing of their hazardous waste, because there is hazardous waste. One of the things in the overlay, one of the uses is battery manufacturing. So they can make their own lithium-ion batteries, you know, to support their data center right on site. That's scary to me. Like, I don't want that 500 feet from my house. And Sweetwater Creek. I remember one of the first phone calls I made was to the state, to a watershed division. What can we do to stop this? And the guy was like, I wish we could. He's like, but we can't do anything until they already have a permit and they mess something up. And that's the way a lot of environmental things are, especially in the state of Georgia and under the current administration. A lot of entities can't do anything until something bad has already happened. And that's why it is so important for the counties to establish codes and to make sure that they are strict enough to hold these people accountable. Like $1,000 a day for a noise violation for a company who's making over $20 million a week in Bitcoin mining is not. And I have a friend who works for a Bitcoin miner. All right, he's in the C-suite of one. I know how much money they make. I know how much electricity they use. I know all the dirty things about Bitcoin mining. You know, that's nothing. $365,000 a year to violate noise violations. Wow,
Overhead.
that's nothing. Nothing.
Overhead.
Yeah. How many schools are within range of the proposed data centers? Churches.
There's a map, I think the Thompsons brought a map there with the schools and the number of students and how many miles they are from the proposed data center. So you can look at that if you're worried about that. And then some of this other stuff, I think, the environmental, it goes back to what you said about it depends on what goes in.
Like the temperature around data centers varies highly. I spent my July 4th birthday at Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. You know, it's a beautiful racetrack, but it is a heat island because it's all cement. Now data centers, because of their cooling, some of them, you know, if they have evaporating towers, they can even create even more. But again, those are all very, you know, center specific, very entity specific, you know, kind of questions and concerns. And until an application is submitted, we can't even assume some of those details.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. I'm very conservative. I'm a Republican. But I have concerns about health issues and the environment as well. And if you'll do your research, don't take my word for it. And I'm not talking about somebody's comment on Facebook. But you can go do the research and see what effects health-wise it has had on several different areas in different counties and different states. There is an environmental concern. Yes, they're improving things, But yet, again, it goes back. I'm supportive of what they want to do. I don't get to having 5 and 6 and 8 and 10,000 data centers. I get that. But I'm just squelching some stuff right now. I'm not being used by no Chinese.
I wish I was getting paid by the Chinese. I could use some extra for gas.
It just makes me sick, people posting that. I've been combat veteran of 2 different wars. I love my country. I have an ancestor that signed the Declaration of Independence, Richard Stockton, the only one arrested by the British. I have deep roots. I love this country. But I don't have a problem with the data centers in the sense that we want to advance our technology, etc. But the problem is, yes, Trump is for the data centers. Okay, that's great. But our local county government is responsible to you and how it's implemented and how it's protected. So that is our issue. I don't have an issue with what the national level, what they want to do. It all boils down, even the state. Yeah, we have some input for the state issue. We need to get to them. And from my conversations with some people in the state, they're going to look at doing some more stuff to protect. But right now, our local government has got us in a bind, and we need to get it rectified.
That's right. There is a question about like rent, and it's known that in most places, a lot of, usually 40 to 50% at least, construction workers come from out of state, or they are, transported. So rent prices typically go up. As I said, somebody already tried to buy my house so they could rent out to construction workers. There might have been a joke about how many construction workers they can fit into one of the houses in the street. I won't go into details of that, but I'll let your minds wander a little bit. So typically it forces some of the local renters out because rental prices will go up. And I mean, some people might think that's a good thing, some people might think it's a bad thing. Not my place to really say either, but typically rent will go up. And if you have rental properties, you might like that. You might be like, yeah, bring the construction workers, making the money. So it's a pro and a con depending on who's looking at it. Not much. I'm going to let the lawyer questions be handled by the PCCA. So we have the Paulding County Community Alliance. I'm still trying to remember all those letters, but everybody, please welcome them to the stage.
I'm Michelle Wolven, and I did not sign up for this. We need people to volunteer to be on our board, and so we are actively looking for volunteers. We need voting members, maybe 9, and then we need officers. So we are a
501c4.
Cindy knows a little bit more because she actually opened up her bank account, and of course everybody wants to know, why are we needing legal funds? So we are trying to raise money for legal representation. Somebody wants to know, what can hiring an attorney realistically do to help us fight this? So we've got 2 different avenues. One is a petition that we would get signatures for. Whenever the county commissioners pass what they did, it's called a legislative action, we can then go back and we can have a ballot initiative with 10% of the voters signing this petition. And we can totally overrule them. With 10% of the voters signing the petition. And then what we would do is we would get it on the ballot. There would be a special election, and we could have a vote, and it would be just for that. So that's what we're looking at doing. And at the same time, we're also looking at doing another course of action There are several options for homeowners that are local in the area. They could sue on behalf of it being a nuisance. And then also we can sue because we didn't receive proper due process. So we were all left out of the decision making, and it's a constitutional issue. So we do believe we do have avenues for lawsuits. Now, once we do file a lawsuit, everything would stop right away. So that's why we're gonna sort of be going in two directions. It will take maybe a year to get the ballot initiative because we have to collect signatures, and then it's probably gonna go through a lawsuit. By the time we get it on the ballot, it might be a year. So we wanna be working on that along with maybe some legal action, unless the county decides that they're gonna do the right thing and put a moratorium immediately. Okay, so Cindy's gonna explain what our organization is.
First of all, before I go that, several of y'all asked about health issues. At the June 23rd Board of Commissioners meeting, I actually did a presentation where I pulled studies from the National Institute of Health, Harvard, University of California, University of Alabama, University of Virginia Commonwealth regarding health concerns. That is actually posted. It's in the No Data Facebook page, and it's also on my personal Facebook page under my Reels. My name on that is Cindy Wellborn, Wellborn, Oldham. You spell it like Oldham. You can see me afterwards if you want that. You're more than welcome to look at it. Also, in my comments on the Reels, I actually have posted the actual links. Feel free to go read it because it was very eye-opening for me. I did not find one single study from any university or reputable source that said, hey, there's no problems with these or potential. So it was very eye-opening for me to decide to look into that subject. I work in healthcare, so I was interested in it. Very interesting data to read, and feel free to share that reel and links with anybody you know. They don't necessarily have to be Paulding County. There's other areas that are fighting this battle. I've shared it with other areas in the counties and states. Say, please share this information because I spent hours pulling that information. Very eye-opening. Now, back to what we're talking about here about our 501c4. I am the official treasurer. First of all, to let y'all know who I am, I live in the Yorkville community. Next month, I'll have been here in Paulding County for 9 years. So who am I? Well, I worked in the health industry for many years. Technically, I'm semi-retired right now. Got replaced 3 times by AI in our industry. That's taken over. I actually have a new job that's coming up next month. I've worked in, I'm technically a forever senior at Kennesaw State University in Business Administration. I never finished that degree, decided didn't need it. And I'm also a legal guardian and conservator with the Cherokee County Court Systems for a disabled lady. So I have accountability to the courts through there for every dime that comes in for her and goes out. I am very open and transparent. One thing we established by the organization is that nobody who's on the board of directors or the treasurer or secretary, we're not going to get paid a single penny. All the money is going directly to the fight. It will be very transparent. Any money that is paid out for legal fees will be posted on the Facebook page. It'll open books for any time anybody wants to question, because the money that is donated is going exactly to the cause. Everybody's just donating their time. So you might ask, what does the 501c4 do? Well, I'm going to read you some of the boring legal stuff, and this is available if anybody wants to look at it. The general purpose of the corporation is organized exclusively to promote the social welfare of the community of Paulding County, Georgia, and surrounding areas within the meaning of the Section 501c4 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 and the regulations promulgated thereafter, including without limitations. The specific purpose of the corporation shall advocate for the betterment, health, safety, and quality of life of Paulding County residents, monitor, analyze, and engage with local government decisions, land use, zoning, development, infrastructure, public services, environmental matters, and other matters affecting community welfare, educate the public regarding community issues, civic rights, and local government processes, engage in litigation, administrative proceedings, or other legal action necessary to protect the rights and interests of the community and PCCA's members, including but not limited to challenges to government action or inaction affecting community welfare, advocate for and support legislation, regulation, and public policy germane to the foregoing purposes consistent with Section 501c4, coordinate with other nonprofit organizations, community groups, and government bodies in furtherance of the foregoing purposes. Told you some of this is a little boring stuff, but it's kind of interesting information to know. The limitations, permissible activities. The corporation shall be authorized to engage in any and all activities permitted to be carried by an organization exempt from federal income tax under the section of 501c4 of the code, including without limitation civic advocacy, community education, lobbying and legislative advocacy, voter registration, voter education and outreach, get out to the vote activities, endorsement of or opposition to candidates for public office, independent expenditures, and other activities undertaken to influence elections, all in furtherance of the social welfare purposes of the corporation. The corporation may engage in lobbying and legislative advocacy to the full extent permitted for organizations described in the Section 501c4 of the Code and applicable regulations. Lobbying activities may constitute a substantial or primary portion of the corporation's activities as permitted by applicable law. The corporation may participate and seek to influence political campaigns, endorse or oppose candidates for federal, state, and local public office, make independent expenditure in furtherance of the corporate social welfare purposes. All political campaign activities shall be conducted in compliance with applicable law. One other side note, as the treasurer, one of the things that we have mandated, we did set up with Lockheed LGE Credit Union, and for any expenditures that go out, it mandates 2 signers, Dorita and myself, and then Michelle's our third person back up if for some reason something happens and Dorita and I are not available. So we have complete transparency, double check, so you don't have this one person controlling the checkbook per se.
Somebody did ask about an estimate of the final cost of all litigation. So that would depend on if we actually brought a lawsuit. And we've been told it could be up to at least about $100,000. So we're gonna have to keep doing fundraisers. I talked to Steve Swope, who is very active in the Coweta fight. And he gave me a lot of advice last night, and we actually are going to be looking at a possible different law firm now. But they're doing a benefit tonight in Coweta in Noonan, and they're doing $1,000 a plate dinners with the lawyers coming in to ask questions, answer questions. So this is the sort of thing we're going to need help on, because if we do have litigation, we're going to have to keep raising money, which we're not thrilled about for sure. Somebody asked, what did you guys already answer this about what time and date the commissioners meet? Somebody asked the question, what are the meeting dates for the commissioners? So they are the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday of the month, usually 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.
2 p.m. on the 2nd and 6 p.m. on the 4th.
Yeah.
2 p.m. on the 2nd and 6 p.m. on the 4th Tuesday of the month. So the next one is this Tuesday, the 28th, and we have a 10 a.m. and a 6 p.m. There is no 2 p.m. And you can sign up to speak through email. You have to email Rebecca Meredith, and we've got that information on the Facebook page. You can phone her, but it's better to have an email track of that you actually sent in the request to speak. Somebody asked, can we donate for litigation? If not enough is raised, can we get our money back? So because of our tax status, we can't give back the money. It has to be donated to another nonprofit. So we could donate the money to another county that is fighting this if we don't have to end up suing. And I do want to say that as of yesterday, we hit $15,000, maybe $15,500. We were told we needed a $40,000 retainer. One of the things that I found out yesterday was that this other law firm only needs a $5,000 retainer. So, and they're actually involved in several of these types of lawsuits around in Georgia. So I'll be making a call, or one of us will be making a call this week to them to see if they can take our case. They may be overloaded, so we don't know yet. Fundraisers. Oh yeah, so fundraisers, are there any fundraisers being planned? Yeah, we need help with that. We need a lot of help. So we'll have sign-up sheets if anybody, hopefully a lot of you want to get involved in this community action committee. We need a lot of help. We're going to need people, a big team, to go out and help collect signatures for the petition. And realistically, the petition is really what we need. We need the whole county to say, we don't want these in residential neighborhoods. And then that will be what they're going to have to follow. So that's really what we're going to need to do, and it's going to be a lot of people that we need to volunteer to get signatures.
Don't you have to be notarized also?
There's a notary that has to be involved, yes, but not every signature requires a notary. So that's good news. We were under the impression that every person that signed the petition would have to have a notary, but that's not correct.
That's good.
Somebody keeps something up.
Hey, I just wanted to add, many people are asking, how can you contact your local commissioners? What are the meeting dates and schedules? That information is easily accessed on paulding.gov, and you can find out, the summary of minutes, so you can access that information easily. And the post that each commissioner has.
Yeah, we also have contact information for all the commissioners on our Facebook page, but it might be hard to find because there's so many posts. So it's probably better to just go right to the county website.
Michelle, I just want to add what you said a while ago. When we went through the circumstance we did, United Methodist Church, we got hit with big retainer fees, but then there were attorneys like you've discovered, and what you're saying that may be overloaded. What they did is they understood what they needed to do, and it helped bring the cost down. So I just want to give you that as advice.
And again, I don't want to be ahead of having to do all this. So I've sort of been doing a lot with Shannon and open records and everybody. So we really need more help. People are asking, well, who are we? I am a lifelong conservative. I'm a mother of 9 children. I have 11 grandchildren. So I've been a stay-at-home mom. I've been a caretaker for the last 13 years of my father, who recently passed away in January from end-stage Alzheimer's. So I've got some free time now. I've been involved in activism since 1998, 97. And I used open records requests to get a very large facility in Atlanta shut down that was operating illegally. So that was before all this stuff was being electronic, like I was having actual hard copies mailed to me of state reports. So that's who I am.
So, just a couple of takeaways. We're going to close. But the takeaway I want you to know is this is a bipartisan issue. It's about us, the people. And I want you to get involved and get active. I know we have a commissioner here present. I'm not going to point him out.
I will.
No. But if you have questions, you can ask. Not now, wait. We're not going to do questions now. We're going to close out. But if y'all have questions of us or whatever, but let's have the freedom of everybody that needs to leave, wants to leave, whatever, go ahead and go. But we appreciate y'all being here. Please get involved. Please get involved. Believe that you can make a difference, because you can. You can make a difference. And don't let nobody scare you or make you feel bad because you voice your opinion.
That's right.
We need everybody Tuesday.